Many games are heralded as masterpieces, and yet when I ask, what is a perfect game? Is this what comes to mind? Or for you, it may very well be. And for some elite gamers, they definitely think, for obvious reasons. I believe we hit perfection early on. You can feel the heart of gaming with every nom of this iconic yellow hockey puck. Nowadays, we often go to great lengths to define immersion in AAA gaming, and yet I challenge anyone to play this game and tell me they don't feel immersed as these two ghosts outwit you, and hello, now you're in a shadow realm. Oh, and if you're the type of person that needs a female protagonist to feel immersion, well, miss, I don't need your muscles, Abby, thank you very much, has got you covered. Gaming, doing gender equality since 1982. Now, that's not to give Namco all the credit. Games such as Tetris are also peak gaming perfection, still being a top game on a Nintendo handheld. This isn't some boomer nostalgia talking here. When I asked a friend what were his top games of all time, he happened to mention Celeste. This beautifully crafted modern platformer speaks the language all gamers can understand, eating some dang all strawberries. See, it's called a video game, accent mark on the game. But as time goes by though, it seems many AAA developers have put the accent on video with, hey, look at this mocap, or open world environment with nothing to do, or hey, let's take away your run ability because you have to walk slowly and listen to my story. Okay, so why am I talking about all this? Well, a certain Bad Canine released a sequel recently, and everyone lost their collective marbles while I went, This is because when the first one came out, I was in the later half of high school, a time when income was extremely limited, and what little money I did have, I was investing in impressing the ladies.
Virgin, I love them.
A billion years later, I got myself a PS4, and in the bundle was The Last of Us Remastered. I figured, what the hey, pop that sucker in, and 10 minutes later, found myself asleep at the desk. This was the game that won all the awards under the sun? The one that everyone universally praises and still continues to be upheld as a gaming masterpiece? Perhaps my bias towards narrative-driven games was getting in the way, and so I decided to troop it out, play the whole thing, and report back what I thought. Spoiler alert, not much changed. Let's start with the pros and get that out of the way because everything I will say here has been said before. This game is gorgeous, and you get the feeling that Naughty Dog was really going for that cinematic feel, almost like it should be a movie or something. Characters emote in such a convincing way that the line between fantasy and reality start to distort. I don't mean just that the character models look realistic, because there is some truth to that, but rather that the characters do a compelling job of expressing emotion. It is the core of why this works, and this is absolute trash. Facial expressions aside, the other trick all dogs go to hell have is their S-tier, gourmet, organic, grass-fed dialogue. In isolation, I could watch this endlessly. The interactions between prototype stepfather figure and girl is just music to my ears, and there is no doubt in my mind that these writers have some chops. Attach a focused, tight-knit story and a pacing to match, and golly, you got yourself a dang all good watch. But that's where the pros end, because it's only a good watch. An amazing game is something that a backseat gamer couldn't really enjoy. They should be frothing at the mouth wishing they're the ones playing. If they are somehow equally entertained, or worse, thankful they're not the one doing some of the tedious work you have to as the player, I don't know, you might have missed the point of gaming. Obviously, this is not a black and white criteria, but it is generally a good rule of thumb that I follow. Watching me play something like Doom 2016 isn't anywhere near as fun as playing Doom 2016, or Pac Man, or... With The Last of Us, however, the best parts were watching the story unfold rather than playing the game. Gameplay can be divided into two parts, combat and puzzle segments.
War never changes.
On the combat front, the word that kept popping into my head was serviceable. Guns go boom, bigger guns go blam, hide around walls, stealth is the favorite tactic, use bricks and bottles to distract. The presentation was nice with the sounds of the guns being full, and the animations for the kills had a certain rawness to them. This format, however, never evolves, and can I just say, this may be a nitpick, but the enemy variety was underwhelming to say the least. I mean, the infected in this game feel like they take such a backseat to everything. You basically have zombie, blind zombie that means business, and infected big chungus. I know narratively the infection is more of a plot device to set up a human conflict, but again, this just further reinforces the notion that the main ethos of this game is narrative and not gameplay. It's like every 15 minutes of the story, the developers went, oh wait, this is a video game, right? Cue up the shooting gallery segment so they don't forget this is a game. Also, the stealth mechanics always seem the most minimal that you can get. At one point, I thought that the flashlight would come into play in regard to how stealthy I could be, but then I had this encounter and realized the AI was set to Siri. I can't complain too much though, because of the two types of interactions the game provides, I find this one to be the least egregious.
Jason!
The second side to this interaction coin is what I like to call press up to play segments. The prevailing usage of this is one of the reasons I cannot get behind these cinematic focused games, because to me, this is the most antithetical game design choice ever implemented. All it amounts to is busy work to sustain the claim of interactivity, but it does it in the most brain-dead way, which leads me to the puzzles. Oh, the puzzles. Essentially, in the game there are two types of puzzles. Wait, what is this, numerology? Two types of interactions, two puzzles, two main characters, two. Both are the world's most tedious page turn. It's like an ad on a YouTube video without the skip button. There are the get alley across puzzles and turn on a generator puzzles. For the generator puzzles, my only gripe is, why is there a triple button press mechanic? I mean, it never evolves into anything meaningful. I kept expecting that there was going to be a situation where my ability to get the generator on quickly was going to come into play, and yet I had all the time in the world. What is even the point of this? To waste my time is the point. That pales in comparison to the raft puzzle. Now, I didn't say this before, but I've been using the word puzzle very lightly. I mean, there is a certain amount of what thing needs to go here to make thing happen, so I guess it can be considered a puzzle, but it's definitely bottom tier. Sort of like a hit the switch in a tutorial Zelda level tier of puzzle, because again, it never ever evolves. I remember watching the documentary In the Game the Movie, and something that always stuck with me was when the Super Meat Boy creators were talking about their approach to game design. Something like the spinning saw was a great mechanic because they found ways to constantly evolve the idea into greater challenges. This is interactivity done right. The sad part is, there is a glimmer where you can see how the gameplay could have married the narrative they were trying to tell. Quick spoiler warning for those who have never played the game. Okay, good? So you get to this beach area where you see a shipwreck which leads you to the sewers. Scattered throughout the area there are these notes that detail the journey the mysterious seamen undertook. As you explore the sewers, you see how this group lived and survived. Walls are filled with paintings, you find a laundry room, there's a children play area. Reading the notes and piecing the events that befell the group is the closest the game comes to a cohesive gameplay narrative moment. Now, it's still not the best because due to its linear nature, you can't miss this area. The most you can do is breeze through it like a speedrunner on a world record. However, the characters will still comment on what has happened here. I would have loved it if the world was a bit more open and you could have organically run into this area on your own. Exploration is one of the strongest gameplay mechanics to tell a story, and it would just reinforce what you go through with Girl. I know that a call for an open world might be contradictory to my dislike for cookie-cutter trends in gaming, but it didn't have to be implemented in the Rockstar format or the towers on towers on towers Ubisoft format. Something like a bigger map with organic barriers. Going off the beaten path and running into a natural encounter with a horde of infected or humans, and then having to escape or perish would lend itself to the world building. Clearly, there are areas that are big no-nos because of the military or infected, and yet you always feel like you're on rails in Disneyland, just passing by safely. I can see the potential if the game was more interested in being a game than a story. Now, do I think this game doesn't deserve to exist? Not at all. And if you love this game, then hey, gold sticker for you. Don't let me change your mind. I happen to think it set one of the worst trends AAA has adopted and continues to move towards. Simply put, it's one of the most overrated games because of the industry's insecurity and desperate need to be seen as mature art, all while forgetting things like this and this continue to pass the test of time because of its 100% gameplay focus. Ironically, the games with wider demographics these days are these drug-modeled gameplay-focused mobile games that anyone can get into, kind of like the old-school arcade days. Yet tons and tons of resources go into AAA games that will never get their Oscar invitation. They're there to make little Timmy feel like he just got through the Odyssey, make backseat partners happy, and act as a circle jerk for game journalists to feel like Ebert and Roper. On a scale from 1 to 10, story and dialogue were a solid 8 out of 10, gameplay was a meh 5 out of 10, so my final verdict? 0 out of 10. Joel never sang to me.